OG Rose here, and today we're talking about Section 3 of Belonging again. And in this section, we address a lot of what Charles Taylor talks about. Taylor pushes back against the idea that secularism has led to an abandonment and a decline of religion. He talks about the Nova effect and how there actually has been an explosion of religion. I think it's important to follow the fate and changes of religion because religion is often a source of stable community, identity, meaning, and things like that. And you'll often see that what happens to religion is what happens to community and culture and things like that. And Taylor is interesting because he really wants to argue that there's more belief than ever before. That, though, yes, certainly, moderns are caught in things like cross-pressures, certain existential stabilities. He says we should be careful before we begin to think that religion is in decline in his book, The Secular Age, because, in fact, beliefs are multiplying. There's some truth to that, but I think it's important to recognize that there's been a kind of inflation of beliefs, that even though there has been an increase in the different options of belief, that the weight and power of those beliefs, the absoluteness, or at least the feeling of absoluteness, has declined. And so I think religion has lost its stickiness, per se, its ability to hold people, its ability to ground people, even though there's arguably more religions than ever before. I think the same logic applies to, say, community and identity and so on. That although there are many more options for belief to ground us, those beliefs don't have the same ability to hold us. And that pluralism, though, entails that multiplication of belief, it also inflates those beliefs and makes them weaker. Yeah, and Descartes also talks about how from Descartes, there's been this emphasis on the individual and how the individual has worked against community, and how that individualization was a weakening force of religion, and how we've gone against that. For him, we've changed that, and although it's quite difficult. So then he also kind of goes into why belief has fragmented so much, and that's because of the individualization. That's been because of secularization and the Enlightenment, that there's been this breaking apart of religion. But very important for Taylor, rather than this breaking apart being a death of religion, almost like breaking apart a living organism, each of those parts that have broken apart have become a new option of belief. And so for him, belief in a way is growing stronger. But and I may misunderstand him, but that's my impression, and I just push against that because I think belief has inflated. So that too is a way to sort of describe the situation that we are in. And again, to allude to earlier sections, maybe that's not all bad, because if we don't have these weighty truth claims, or these weighty metaphysical notions of how the universe works, it's much more difficult to establish a banality of evil to give rise to a Hitler, but at the same time, it's more difficult to give rise, well, you can't give rise to a Bonhoeffer or belonging if we follow the arguments of Hunter. But hey, maybe we're better off. That's the question we keep exploring. The other thing I think that is worth addressing is the question of if it's possible to have non-exclusive communities, non-exclusive truth claims, non-exclusive identities, because that would seem to be what Hunter is saying is not possible. That if it's going to have any power over us, if character is going to be definable from community, from values, if community definable from just mere association, it has to have some weight. And I think it's important to realize that it's not possible to have an exclusive truth claim. If I say all truth claims are equally true, well, then I exclude the person who believes that Krishna is the most absolute truth claim. And this is based on some arguments that Timothy Keller makes in a famous lecture on the inescapability of truth claims. If I say the capital T truth is an elephant, and some people feel the hooves, some people are feeling the tail, and they say, oh, the capital T truth is kind of stringy, another person says it's kind of stumpy, and so on. The point of that metaphor is to suggest that every religion, every person has a different perspective of the capital T truth, and no one has more of a claim on it than anyone else. But the point Keller makes is that even saying that the capital T truth is an elephant requires knowing something you can't know. Saying that people are grabbing different parts of the elephant is to say something you can't know. And also that is to exclude people who don't think that the capital T truth is an elephant. And that same logic will apply to any foundation, any weighty foundation for a community, any metaphysical structure, any view of reality. Now, this isn't to say all exclusive truth claims or all foundations of excluding foundations of a community or an identity are equally as exclusive, equally as pushing people out. But it is to suggest that a totally inclusive truth claim, a totally inclusive view of the world or community is not possible, and so we can't escape exclusion. So again, maybe we're just better off than not to have community and identity, and then we won't have exclusion, but then we won't have belonging. So this is all to suggest that if we want to have community, if we're going to continue down this path of determining if a weighty community or character is possible in a pluralistic age, then it's going to have exclusion. We can't avoid that. And if it doesn't, it won't have any authority. It won't have any power to compel us, to change us, and to thus ground us. But as we're going to continue to explore, maybe it's better off if we don't have that any sense of a capital T truth. Maybe the banality, the risk of the banality of evil is not worth belonging.